I've known Ken for about maybe 2.5 years, 3 years? Yeah. And we went through a bit of a prayer session at one point, and Ken kind of just like opened the door to a bunch of stuff that I've been dealing with for years. And one of the biggest things was sexual sin. Now, I didn't know or understand what was happening. When I was younger, I was sexually abused, and I found that there was actually a lot of things that kind of changed my way of thinking, changed my self-worth, made me feel like I was inadequate, I was unable, I was imprisoned. And so how that manifested was that I sought comfort in any way I could. Now, I'm a very emotionally connected person by nature, and I found that a lot of the time those things weren't actually being met, so I would seek them out in ways of looking at like pornography or other things, and I found that over time that became habitual. And I didn't actually understand it at the time, but I was also dealing with generational curses, which I think you're going to be talking about in a minute. But that made my life incredibly dark. I would go to church and I would talk to my friends and I would talk to my family, and none of them understood what was happening. None of them knew about my struggle. And none of them actually could even understand the depth of how much it was killing me inside. I was becoming so much more of a person that was projecting who I thought God wanted me to be. I was pretending to act like kindness. I pretended to give everything I could to be the absolute epitome of being like what kind of a man you would expect a Christian man to be. But the thing is that inside, I felt like my heart was getting robbed. I felt like the bars of my sin were getting thicker and thicker. And I felt like my heart was getting darker and darker. And every single time I heard a sermon that was about forgiveness and freedom and access to this mercy, I didn't understand what it was, and I would run out of the church as fast as possible because I felt like my heart was just not going to ever feel that. And I thought, that's great for everybody else, but not for me. How could I, the king of sin, be accessing that kind of freedom? Now, about 2 years ago, I was having a chat with Ken, and it was just a chat about life, and Ken just went through this prayer ministry session, and we uncovered a few things that were strongholds in my life, this being one of them. And the thing is that he asked me a very simple question. He said, have you ever asked God how he sees you? And I said, no, because why would I? I thought I was like scum, like I was dirt, like I was like this slime in God's presence. And I was just fraudulently accessing his knowledge, but not actually experiencing his freedom. And when we sat and we thought about that, I saw a picture in my head, and it was as clear as day. And it was just light, a being of light. Now that changed how I saw myself, because for the first time ever, I was given access to mercy and access to forgiveness. And the depth of my sin was nowhere near the depth of his forgiveness. And at the end of the day, that has pivotably changed my entire life. I'm able to walk in and see people's heartbreak and know the heartbreak because God's heart broke for me, and he met me in that sin and he met me in that pain. But the thing is that when we're talking about strongholds, it doesn't have to be something that takes you and makes you run out of a church because you think you're not good enough. This is a place for people who are broken. This is not a hospital. This is a hospital for the broken people. This is not a museum for good people. So don't ever think that you're not worthy. Don't ever think that you're not ready for that kind of mercy, because God is ready to meet you in it and look at you in the eyes and say, I see you and I see all you've done and the depths of the emotional trauma. And I've been in it with you from the very beginning. And I see your pain. And I see your heartbreak. And it broke me. And he took everything from me. And he replaced it with an unimaginable glory and a mercy and a forgiveness and an overwhelming sense of just family and love. And every single person is able to access that freedom. There is nothing holding you back Only the thoughts of the enemy saying that you are unworthy and that you are not able to access that mercy, and those thoughts that realign your thinking to make you feel like you're unworthy, are the things that are going to keep you imprisoned. But God walks into that prison cell, he takes you by the hand and he runs out and he destroys it. It is never ever coming back. So let him hear you and call out to him and just ask for his mercy and forgiveness, and he will freely and lovingly give it.